time, Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, it's another amazing show with an amazing guest. And man, it's Friday, so it's that time where you get to enjoy the weekend, a little quick vacation before Monday. But hey, next week it's gonna be Christmas time, so we want to wish everyone, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and yours, and also Happy Holidays if you celebrate anything else. But first and foremost, let me introduce our guest today. Today we have Terry Whalin. He is a dedicated just author, writer. He knows everything about publishing. So if you're someone out there who is new to publishing, or maybe you're a seasoned vet in the writing game, but you can brush up on maybe some tips and some advice from our special guest today, Terry. He has a lot of experience and he has great success in the whole publishing world. But you can go to his website, terrywhalin.blogpost.com, just to kind of navigate in his world and see what he does. But before we dive into the conversation, I just want to welcome Terry Whalin to the show. First and foremost, how are you doing today?
Great, Shemai. Wonderful to be here with you. I appreciate this opportunity very much.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know with your years of not just wealth of information, you also have creativity that you can share with the audience that can give them the edge, especially as we wind down in 2024 and getting ready for 2025. This can be a nice game changer for some folks out there. So before we talk about publishing, you being an author of 10 publishing myths, you have a lot of things to share with the writing world. So I'll let you do the honors. First and foremost, share with the audience a little bit how you got into publishing and what inspired you to do so.
Oh yeah, I got into publishing basically. Thought I was going to be a journalist, working at newspapers and things like that, and it was really about halfway through my sophomore year in college. I was sitting at the campus newspaper there at on Indiana University campus, 30,000 on the main campus, and we produced a full-size newspaper 6 days a week. And I was one of the writers, and so I was sitting at this old Royal typewriter. I couldn't get my fingers on the right keys, so I kept saying to myself, "Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ!" And this little blonde-haired girl that was sitting next to me, she said, "Oh, Terry, don't say that, because one of these days when you really need Jesus, you'll call out for him and he won't be there." And I thought, what's this? I'm a Christian. I go to church when I'm at home. I read the Bible in church when I'm at home. Shema, I had no idea what I was doing back then, but she encouraged me to go down to a little bookstore a couple blocks off the Indiana campus. They had pretty cards and posters, and maybe I'd find a book that interested me. So I wandered down there a few days later, and I bought this book called Jesus the Revolutionary. I thought, how in the world could Jesus be a revolutionary? And I read that book as a sophomore in college. It showed me a different side of Jesus than I'd ever seen before. And about that time, somebody invited me to this Jesus People gathering in downtown Bloomington. They were sitting on little scraps of carpets with little candles lit. And those people had something that I didn't have. And so I got a Bible, and I changed the direction of my life. So instead of being a journalist, I joined a group called Wycliffe Bible Translators, and I spent 17 years with them. I worked in Guatemala, Central America, among the Southwest Cachiquel people. And then I wandered back to my writing after that, started going to writers' conferences and writing for magazines and some stuff like that. And I went at one of these conferences, an editor took a walk with me, and she said, "Terry, I have a problem." And I always listen when these editors tell me their problems. And she said, "Terry, at David C. Cook, we're supposed to publish books to help kids learn about the world and how it's a big world and they need to get involved in all that. What kind of ideas do you have?" And so at that time, my kids were little, and so I was reading these children's books by Stephen Lawhead called Howard Had a Hot Air Balloon, Howard Had a Spaceship, and it combined real pictures with a little cartoon character to stir kids' imagination, to show kids that kind of thing. And so I said, what if we combine real pictures from Wycliffe and show kids with a cartoon character that they could go anywhere? What kind of occupation they wanted to do with their lives. She said, "That's a good idea. Write that up and send that to me." And so I made a little note and I went home and I wrote it up and sent it to her. Now that wasn't what got published. I mean, it took a number of gyrations for that to happen, but that became my first book that was published in 1992, a little children's book called When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus. And what I know now from being an editor, I go to writers' conferences too, and I talk to writers and I listen to their ideas and say, "That's a good idea. Write that up and send that to me." Well, what I find is only about 10 or 15% of those people that I tell that to actually carry through and send it to me. And so they don't even give themselves a chance to get published. And so it's not that I get published by doing that, but at least I give myself a chance, an opportunity by just following through and sending the editor what they ask for. I mean, it's just a simple thing, but people don't do it.
That is very good information because in the world of follow through, follow through is something that we hear a lot in business, and it's like you said to your point, is one thing to have someone give you opportunity, but it's another thing when you actually deliver and you actually take the action to do something. Like you can't just think that, "Oh, I'll get another opportunity, another shot." Sometimes you get once in a lifetime opportunities. So for you having that experience, understanding the power of not just listening to people and understanding what they're coming from, their ideas and their creativity and vision, you also know the responsibility of making something happen, doing something about it. Touch on that real quick before we start talking about like the myths of publishing, because it's one thing to have someone give you a chance, but it's another thing when you actually take the first step.
Well, and that's a lot of what publishing is about, finding those opportunities. And we have great opportunities to get our work published out there. We just have to give the editor what they're asking for at the end of the day. I Years ago, as a frustrated acquisitions editor, I wasn't getting the material from writers that I really needed, and so I wrote this book, another book, but beyond 10 publishing myths that I wrote called Book Proposals That Sell: 21 Secrets to Speed Your Success. And people have used that book to get a literary agent, to get a book publishing deal. All kinds of great things have happened from that book. And I wrote the revised edition. People can get the ebook version of that book for free from me if they just go to Book Proposals, plural, bookproposals.ws.website. It'll pull up a web page where that you'll see the cover and a little copy about the book and a big button that says free book. So you can get the ebook version of that book for free from me. And so I want people to get that stuff just to learn what the editor needs and to deliver the right thing when you send it out.
Well, that's a great Christmas gift to our viewers and our listeners. Once again, we're talking to our guest today, Terry Whalin. Go to his website, terrywhalin.blogspot.com. We'll definitely share that link that you just gave us moments ago in our description so that people can definitely click on that and check that out. That'll be an awesome Christmas gift. So when you look at the publishing myths, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's a lot of people who are exploring self-publishing, and they're learning how they can go the traditional route as well. What are some of the myths that you've been able to see, and how can our viewers and listeners gain from the wisdom of your experience of understanding that, hey, this is what is really going down in the secret sauce?
Yeah, there's, and the life-changing experience that I had in this whole area of myths is I had a little literary agency that I was running in Scottsdale, Arizona a few years ago. And Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, invited me to come out to Los Angeles for the Mega Book Marketing University. Now, at that point in my life, Shania, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. Two of my books had received six-figure advances. And I have long stories about what actually happened to those books, but publishers were making pretty books. They were getting them in the bookstore, but either quarterly or twice or once a year, you get this royalty statement from your publisher that shows how your books are selling. Now, my publishers were giving me an advance, but your book has to sell so many copies in order to be making money on those books. And my statements were all in the minus category. I wasn't making any money selling these books. And I really couldn't understand what was going on. And so when I went to this event in 2007, there were over 400 people there. And I sat there with everybody else and listened and took notes and all that kind of stuff. And it was almost like about halfway through that event, it's almost like I woke up and I realized how little I was doing myself to promote my own books and why that really is important. And that's part of the emphasis that I emphasize in 10 Publishing Myths as well. But I realized back then I just had a terrywhalin.com website. That's the only thing I was doing. And one of the speakers at this event was Jack Canfield, the other co-author on the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And Jack has written this book called The Success Principles, and where he's really studied what it takes to be successful out there. And the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do it. We want the publisher to do it. Our agent, our marketing person, somebody other than us. But it was during that event, Shemai, that I really decided that I was going to take 100% responsibility for my own success. And so that's when I started blogging. My blog that you told people to go to, for example, has over 1,700 entries in it. And they say there's over 600 million blogs that are out there. So there's a lot of blogs. But about a year ago, I found this article that listed the top 27 content producers in the blog world. And my name was one of those top 27 people. I was right there with Seth Godin and Ryan Holiday and people like that. And I think part of it is that I've been consistent doing this. I blog once a week and I send it out. I have about 1,700 entries that are in my blog. So, there's a lot of content over there for people to learn about publishing and all that kind of thing. And I'm consistent about it. So it's that kind of thing. And then when social media came along, I started doing that. So I have over 19,400 connections on LinkedIn. I have 175,000 people that follow me on X, Twitter, or whatever they're calling that these days. Anyway, I'm involved in those processes. They're not consuming for me because I've worked out a way that I only spend maybe 30 minutes a day doing that stuff. But I'm active in those areas, and that's important for every author to know that they can take some action steps, and they're the ones that really need to do it. One of my myths is that the publisher will market and sell my book. Sure, your publisher is going to market. They're going to do some, but even like what we do at Morgan James. We're a New York publishing house, and we publish about 180, 200 books a year. There's only so much passion that we have for your book, where you're the person that has the greatest passion and greatest desire for your book. So you want to take that and use that as fuel to be doing something proactive to help you. Now, in my 10 Publishing Myths book here, every chapter has what I call an MBA, a myth busting action. That's something practical that the author can actually do to help them tell people about their book. Because so much of the publishing process is just totally outside of our control. It's nothing we can do anything about. But there are some actions that every author can take. So, I talk to authors all the time, Jemima, and so they'll tell me, well, I built my stuff on LinkedIn, or I built my stuff on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is. Well, that's great, but I call that a rented platform because, hey, I don't control Facebook. I don't control LinkedIn. I don't control YouTube. I can do something simple that I don't even know that I'm doing and violate their terms of agreements and get kicked off of there. Boom. What happened to all the stuff that you've done? So I always encourage authors, if they're going to build anything at all, do it on something they can control. I can control my own website. I can control my own blog. I can control my own email list. Those are all things that every author needs to do just to develop that relationship out there with their reader, and something that they can control, and nobody's gonna just instantly boot them off and wreck whatever they've done.
What I love about your points you're making is consistency. Being consistent is key. And like you said about the 100%, you have to own your success 100%. You can't just rely on all these different tools as the answer to your prayers, because that's wishful thinking. And for our audience, I'm glad that you're talking about how blogging has helped you in maintaining your website, because you're right. We are renting space on these social media platforms, and they're great. There's different ways you can use it. And there's probably an infinite argument for those to talk about, well, how we should be using this and using that. But let's save that for later. Let's talk about this, because I think this would be great, especially for those. We know that the year is winding down, and 2025 will be here before we know it. What are some of the things that writers out there who, whether they have been publishing for years or they're about to start a new path in publishing, what are some do's and don'ts, if you will, when you're building your blog portfolio, so to speak, and how can they utilize that in 2025 as another way to present who they are as a writer?
Well, I think one of the keys is to realize who is your target reader and your target audience. All the time these authors will tell me, well, my book's for everybody. Well, no. Everybody isn't going to buy your book. So come up with who that primary audience is, secondary, tertiary audience for your particular book. Where are those people? How can you get to them? And how can you be telling them on a consistent basis about your book? And you really, when you do that, you stress the benefits, Shemaiah. It's not buy my book, but somebody has to know about your book and hear about it, see the book cover, figure out that it's important to them, probably 7, 20, 12, 20 times really before they actually reach into their wallet and buy that book. So that's part of why publishers are so interested in your social media numbers, because they want to see that you're consistently out there and doing something to be telling people. Whether that ends up in a book sale or not, that's questionable. But the fact that you're showing people about the benefits, telling them about the book, giving them opportunities. So for example, for my 10 Publishing Myths book, I've created this 11th myth that's totally free that people can have from me. Alice Kreider, who's an acquisitions editor at Cook Communications, when she sent me her endorsement for this book, she said, "Terry, you're missing the 11th myth." I'm like, "That's great, Alice. What's the 11th myth?" She said, "Well, the 11th myth should say, if I send my book to Oprah she'll book me on her show. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a pretty big myth there. So what I decided to do is I wrote that chapter, and then when we designed the book, I designed that chapter to look exactly like the rest of the book. So you can get that 11th myth from me by going to terrylinks.com/11th myth. And that'll pull up a website over there. You put your name and email address in, and then I send that to you completely free. And so, also on the book, I want people to get this book. It's available at bookstores everywhere, but if you want to get it directly from me, which I think is one of the best ways to do it, you can go to publishingoffer.com and you can get the book from me for $10. The printed book includes the shipping along with over $200 worth of bonuses. So, publishingoffer.com. Just think about that, and love for you to have the help from this book out there.
Well, once again, you listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online. Want to say to you, Terry, what you're doing, I think is amazing. The quality that you're giving to those out there who love writing professionally and are trying to grow professionally, because it takes a village. It takes us to understand there's some smart people out there that you can learn from, and I would highly suggest you follow what Terry Whalin is doing. And before we come to the close with the interview, my last question for you will be, for those who are thinking about getting into the publishing world, and maybe the first time is scary because they're worried about all the things that they can control, right? With the marketing, how the numbers will look, and so forth, so forth. In your opinion, how does understanding the reality of publishing improve the author's overall experience?
Yeah, I think just understanding what you're up against is a valuable part of the whole experience. I mean, counting the self-publishing books, there are over 11,000 new books that come out every day. I mean, that's a lot of competition out there, especially when you think of all the stuff that's in print and all that kind of thing. So I just encourage people to, figure out something simple that they can do and then do that over and over to help them. I mean, and all of us that are in publishing get a lot of rejection. I mean, even Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, those Chicken Soup for the Soul books that have sold millions of copies, they were rejected over 160 times. I mean, that's incredible. Everybody forgets about that. It's a very successful series. When the book was finally published, they found a little publisher in Florida that was going to publish their book. And they told that publisher that they were going to sell 1 million books in the first year. And their publisher laughed at them because they'd never sold 1 million copies of anything at that point in their lives. And, it took them a year and a half to sell 1 million copies. But Mark and Jack, when that book first came out, practiced what they call the rule of 5. And so every day, when they got up, they did 5 different things to be telling people about their book. So they did a radio interview like we're doing, or a podcast, or a newspaper article, or a guest blog post, or just something to be telling people about their book. And they did that consistently. So that's another action step, for people out there that want to write, is to get out there in the market and just be telling people about what you're doing. It's that simple.
Well, once again, I can believe time is already up right now, but man, it's been a true honor talking to our guest today, Terry Whalin, and everything that you said. I mean, that last part I think that was the secret sauce right there. The rule of 5. I'm gonna adopt that for 2025, and I think for our listeners and viewers, you should try that yourself. And I think that's probably a good idea, whether you're writing or if you just have a brand. If you're doing something, I think the rule of 5 is a great concept. I love that idea. But once again, it's been great time talking to Terry today. For those who want to stay in contact with you, is there a specific platform or link that they can go to for constant updates?
Yeah, I'm very active on X and LinkedIn. In my Twitter X profile, I even have my personal email address. Terry at terrywhalin.com. But that's a great way to get a hold of me. Or I'm one of these people, Shemaya, that I read my email, I answer my phone, and return emails. I mean, it's kind of funny. We're in the publishing business, which is a communication business that doesn't communicate. So I try to be different by just doing that kind of thing as a way. But I really do encourage people to go to publishingoffer.com and get this book for $10 is one of the best steps that they can really take.
Like always, I want to say thanks to our guest, Terry, for taking time out of his busy schedule, giving us some great insight, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the Christmas gift earlier. The link that you mentioned earlier in the show will be in our show notes as well. Like I always want to say thank you to you, Terry, for your time.
Thank you, Shemaya. Appreciate the opportunity.